Hi, this is Richard Romano from What They Think, and I'm here with Larry Corwin, who is the president of Rollem International. Thank you for joining me today, Larry.
Thank you, Richard. I'm very happy to be here.
So I know you want to take this opportunity not to necessarily talk about specific Rollem products, but to talk about sort of card printing and converting in general. So I guess let's just start with a little bit of your background. What's your history with card converting?
Well, you could say I grew up with Rollem, and in doing so, I guess I grew up with card converting. I worked for my father, and I've got two boys that work for their father. So we are a third generation, and a lot of printers may know us from the day where we made perforating scoring equipment, numbering machines. We sold thousands of them throughout the world during the 70s and 80s. And about the same time, we noticed a real change in the card industry, and having equipment very well suited for the conversion, the timing couldn't have been better for us.
So talk about the current status of card converting. So first of all, what kind of cards are we talking about?
Well, we deal with almost every type of card. By the way, these are actual samples. I'm sure the kids probably picked through the better ones. But it started with a machine we developed in the late 70s. And it was a cutting and collating machine. So what we were able to do is take a full sheet and in one pass, cut it very accurately and collate it into a stack. And that lent itself to the playing card industry. So fact be known, I think it was really the playing card industry, which at the time, the giant was Top, still is. But they found us and we found them. And when you consider the trading card industry and then the spring off of what they call the hobby, which is where we find ourselves now, these cards, to maybe you and I had a certain value, we enjoyed them, we would have our favorite team, we'd collect them, we'd trade them. Today, they've taken on just incredible value. So some of the cards maybe that you and I collected in a nice condition could be worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what we're finding now is the emphasis on producing them has grown toward embellishment. Certainly the accuracy of the card. I think if you like currency or coins or stamps, there are companies that do ratings of card condition. So they'll look at the corners and how sharp they are. Are there any wrinkles? But one of the key factors was the centering of the border. And we excelled at that. So what we were able to do, if you looked at cards in the 60s and 70s, it wasn't uncommon to find the player not correctly centered to the card. Today, you'd almost be hard pressed to find one. I think it would hold a value as an oddity or as a misprint. So we've certainly seen the materials change, the thicknesses, the coatings, and the value.
So now, would that value be increased by errors? I know in the case of stamp collecting, the famous upside down Jenny is like worth a fortune. You can find that anywhere. Is it the same with trading cards? Would an off-center card be a rarity and so therefore more value?
It would. An off-centered card, or maybe two sheets stuck together and you had a really significantly poorly cut card. I think the big difference today, though, is the inspection equipment that is being introduced into the process. I think you'll find a vast majority are caught before they ever get to the public. And there's a number of areas. So for example, we'll take a printed sheet like you see in the back. Typically on a 2840, it might hold 100 cards up 2.5 by 3.5. We'll focus on cutting and matching the print to give you those perfect borders. And then from there, they would typically go to a packaging process. Again, that's going to feed each card individually, say put 6 cards, 12 cards, 15 cards into a pack. And then those packs go into retail or into cartons, display boxes. So there's plenty of opportunity in the process to inspect the cards So to answer your question, yes, I would imagine a Pokemon card or a baseball card that was truly a misprint or misaligned would be worth money, no different than a miscut US dollar.
So you just back up a little bit, just talk about, we'll focus on trading cards, like baseball cards, basketball cards, that sort of thing. What's the basic production process? What's the workflow like? Are they largely digital now, or are they some other process?
We are seeing some digital, but I think the necessity to print a 28 by 40 sheet is what still drives this as an most predominantly offset printed product. Again, with 2840, you could comfortably fit between 100 and 121 cards on a sheet. And given the volume that run into the tens or hundreds of millions of cards, the offset process still dominates. When it comes to playing cards, it's interesting. One of the samples that I have happened to be a demonstration that we ran at Drupa, and it was a collaboration with HP for playing cards. And the playing card industry is starting to show a little bit of similarity with the trading card industry, in as much as there are some companies that are receiving or paying for extremely rare and expensive licenses, but they may only produce 10,000 decks. And those might sell originally for $30 or $40, but the secondary market, they could sell for thousands, even tens of thousands. We also get into this process we call promotional. And every one of the big shows, we like to put our name on it because we find with playing cards, people keep them. They did a study years ago that when they're being used, unless you're a chronic gambler, you're relaxed, you're having fun, you're playing gin rummy with the kids. So you're feeling good, you're looking at the name, and most people, if they went into their utility drawer, they'll find packs of cards that can go back 20, 30 years. So it's like saying, here's my business card, keep it for 20 or 30 years. And every time you look at it, you're feeling good. So promotional playing cards is definitely making a roaring comeback. And that does lend itself very nicely to digital print because you could have quantity of 10 or quantity of 100. And that does lend itself for digital printing. So we are seeing real gains being made in the digital market to do, again, with personalization or customization.
You can create custom marked cards for easier cheating.
And it happens. We've actually been asked to render opinion on a couple of scandalous situations that involve very well-known poker players. They call that edge reading, but that's another discussion for another day.
So we spoke earlier, and you had suggested that we're at a great sort of propitious moment for printers, commercial printers, to get involved in card production. So why is that? Why is this a potentially lucrative market for printers to get into?
Well, I think if we just look at it from the most basic perspective, it's a printed product. And given the direction for better quality, more embellishment, different substrates and materials, who better to do this work than printers? Over the years, a lot of companies have done extraordinarily well. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and a lot of those companies have since been sold by their private printers. And what we find now is that if it's a very, very large production and they're bringing in top management, but from different industries, that we're finding in some instances, some of the understanding and nuances of print may not be appreciated. And so you've got a dichotomy where on one hand, they want a better printed product, but they may not be fully up to speed on print. So what we're finding now is a lot of established printers are leveraging and selling their capability as printers to be able to sell the idea of making a very attractive and very collectible product. And it's a very strong argument.
So how would a commercial printer go about getting involved in card printing, not just in terms of acquiring the appropriate equipment, but also just approaching the market? I mean, it seems like the challenges would be akin to what we see in packaging, where there's some sense that they sort of have to prove their credibility. So what's a good first or two steps to take?
Well, you just actually connected with another. We've seen both. We've had companies that were convection packagers that would then accept cards from a printer and get them into the pack. And that evolved into printers actually coming to learn of our processes and our machines, who would then bring those in-house. And with that would then become the appropriate packaging equipment that would be compatible with the products that they're making. So as an example, on a trading card, let's say it's baseball, there might be 800 players in a particular season run. And that might find itself on 8 press sheets based on 100 up. What they want to do is they want to make sure a premium card, be it a highly touted rookie, gets distributed equally throughout the market through their distribution chain without any particular pattern. So as part of the packaging process, there's sort of a sorting or desorting process that goes into it. But I think being in the industry as long as we have, if there are printers that have these opportunities, I think the one service we try to be very good at is a bit of a consultant, because I don't think a printer can think about this lightly. It's a substantial investment. But for those that have done it and those that gain the accounts, it can really explode. And we've seen it where companies in a matter of 2, 3, 4 years have increased their sales 100-fold. You just don't know. But certainly having a connection to the licensor, which of course, that's what a baseball or basketball card is. You go to the league, you get licenses. In that case, you also get players association licenses. And even that part of the industry has changed. So I think what tends to happen is the licensors, they may have a hot product. They need production immediately. They might seek the assistance of 2 or 3 outside printers. And more often than not, that's maybe how they get exposed to the industry.
So we focused on trading cards, and you talked about playing cards. What are some of the other types of cards, like hobbyist cards, and what opportunities are there for printers there?
Tremendous. I mean, games, we know of some monster games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! These are all games that just absolutely swept and have absolutely withstood the test of time. I've got a 35-year-old son, and he collected these cards when he was 8, 9, 10 years old. Some of those cards from those first generation literally sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's constantly people seeking the next big game. And again, there's Magic the Gathering. There's just a lot of games that have been around for decades, and the cards themselves have become a collectible. So if you're talking about game cards, say, versus playing cards, in my mind, the playing card industry, I think, offers the greatest opportunity to sort of drive your own destiny. And rather than developing your own game or waiting for somebody to do it, playing cards is always playing cards. Everybody likes them. Everybody wants them. It's just simply a question of what do you want to do to the back? The fronts, they're always the same.
You don't have the license to use the state. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll get a printer that says, yeah, I may want to get into professional playing cards. I might advise against that unless you absolutely have a way in. Professional cards versus promotional cards versus personalized cards are all very, very different markets. We service them all, but again, the professional playing card market is a totally, completely different thing.
So now I'd be remiss if I didn't ask what equipment Rollem offers that's specifically targeted to card conversion and production.
Yeah, there's a model machine that we developed in the early 80s, and it's called the Slipstream. and it was the first of its size, 28 by 40, and the ability to be able to register sheets to the print is the reason that that particular machine took off. Oddly enough, the machine itself had a different market in mind when the inventors came up with it. They were looking at a general printer that might do some postcards, they might do some product reply cards, they might do some this, a little of that. And that didn't turn out to be. The people that did these products tended to do mega volume. So they do tend to be dedicated machines, with maybe the exception, the difference between a bridge and a poker deck, 2.5 by 3.5 versus 2.25 by 3.5. So they're very, very similar. But I really see the playing card industry really starting to grow new channels of distribution, new products. Again, the collectability we talked about. For any of your viewers, go online and Google the word cardistry and have a look at what some of those people do with decks of cards. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so finally, I guess to come close to wrapping up, what one piece of advice would you give to a printing company looking to diversify into card printing and converting?
I would say talk to us. I can't think of another company that has the years of experience in this industry, and it's never going to be a sales pitch. I probably find myself more citing on the, listen, you really need to think about this a little bit more if you're going to get into it. But every once and again, somebody will come and say, listen, I've got an idea for a card. And when I hear it, I'm like, wow, that's really incredible. So again, if you couple 40 years of experience in an industry, I'm not sure anybody else has had it. I think we've also been very lucky to have worked with some of the world's finest printers. And I say the world because it is worldwide, playing cards and now trading cards. When we started with Topps baseball cards in the 80s, Europe never heard of trading cards. Now you've got big companies, Panini and Topps and many others that do incredible business there. So for one stop, whether or not, you want to just bounce an idea, certainly we're happy to help somebody get started. Sometimes, where do you get the paper? Playing card paper is not paper you're going to get from your normal vendor. The coding, how to climatize, how to do the things to make a real quality product. We do consultation. It doesn't really cost anything, but obviously we think if somebody does have a good idea and they have the financial backing and wherewithal to do it, we think we're going to have a very good customer for a lot of years.
Okay, great. Well, this was fascinating. This is a terrific conversation. So I thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure. And we love what you're doing with What You Think. It's a great resource. It's a tool that we all look forward to seeing every week.
Great. Thank you much.